Greetings, everyone. Eric Brown, MOBO-Media. Hey, I thought I'd hop on here to try to give some context or explain some things about the upcoming military parade. So a lot of folks may be wondering what a military parade is and why military parades are held. It is very rare for the U.S. to hold a military parade. Obviously, you see all the controversy surrounding it, the back and forth debates about whether it should be held or not. But military parades are nothing new. Many other countries hold military parades. This would be the first time I think we've held a military parade, probably since maybe World War II, Korean War, maybe around then. I'm not for sure. But at this magnitude, there have been a lot of celebrations, around the country, within cities and things like that, for folks to celebrate their veterans and their military folks. But this is a big one. This is going to be on a grand scale. It's going to be on the Capitol Mall. It's also going to be, right there in front of the White House and all around that whole area there. It's not just going to be a parade. It's going to be a display. Keep that in mind. It's not just a parade. The parade is one part where you got all the marching and everybody see all the military hardware walking by and that type of stuff. But you're also going to have displays. You'll likely have some paratroopers jumping out of aircraft. Particularly with the Army, that's one of the big things they do with the paratroopers. And so you probably see a lot of that throughout the day, and with banners and things like that. So, but I want to explain a little bit about, military parades, why military parades are held, what are they intended to do, why hold a military parade? What's the reason behind it? So a lot of other countries actually hold military parades. The U.S. hasn't done this in a long time. We've never really gotten into doing anything like that. But other countries such as China, North Korea, Russia, countries like that, they'll hold military parades. And the reason they'll hold military parades is it's almost a message to other folks, other countries and their adversaries to say, hey, look, we got some stuff that can come at you. And so think twice before coming at us. And so in their military parades, oftentimes they'll display their new aircraft, their new weapons technology, missiles, all sorts of stuff, man. You have their military guys marching down the street in precision step. It's inspiring to see it, the way how precise they are in their steps and everything like that. But very colorful, obviously the head of state is always there. Putin is in attendance at his. North Korea, that leader there is in attendance with his. The Chinese leaders in attendance at theirs. And so Trump will be in attendance to this one. And one of the big things is you got to understand that the military actually falls under the commander-in-chief. For us, U.S. president, for everybody, the military falls under that country's leader. And so our military falls under President Trump. And so this is an opportunity also for the military to, in a sense, tell President Trump that, hey, look, we're ready whenever you need us. That really is one of the messages that they send to the president directly, but they also echo that message out to the public to let them know that, behind the scenes, there's a lot of work going on to protect America, and this is how we do it. Now, some of the other countries, like I said, they'll hold military parades and they'll have their missiles on display, their aircraft and hardware. A lot of time, it's a message or a threat to other countries that, hey, don't mess with us. A lot of folks will do it towards the U.S. I mean, all these countries have done it toward the U.S. to let the U.S. know, hey, don't think we don't have, the same capabilities as you do. Russia's real good for that, But the funny thing is, oftentimes when they put their military hardware on display, it never fails. You could tell that the design of that military hardware came from something in our inventory. It never fails. And I know got a lot of military folks out there and veterans who will attest to this, that some of their aircraft look like some of our aircraft. Some of the missiles like some of our missiles. They just call them different names and they'll change it up a little bit, but I think the technology comes from us, obviously. So what you can expect on Saturday, Saturday is Flag Day. Saturday is the president's birthday. Saturday is the commemoration of the Army's 250th anniversary. So you're going to see a massive display of firepower and, dedicated young men and women who raise their right hands to defend this nation. So it'll be something to see. It'll be a sight to see. Other countries, I think, this is going to be an interesting parade because since the U.S. hasn't done it in so long, it'll be interesting to see what the other countries are thinking and what they're anticipating. And or they're looking at trying to steal some of our designs or mimicking what we do, or really seeing just how powerful the U.S. is. And this is going to be an interesting day on Saturday. So, buckle your seatbelts. I know a lot of men and women in uniform, particularly those, that's going to be involved with the parade, are going to be proud with their countrymen and their families and everybody else looking on, seeing them on one of the nation's biggest stages. And so kudos to those young men and women who are going to be involved with that. And it is something to be proud of. It is something to be proud of. There's a lot of controversy right now about President Trump and his reasons behind the parade. I have my own views on it, on the parade, and I'll just leave it at that. I have my own views on it as a veteran. But I will say that a lot of folks are also talking about the cost. That's one thing I failed to mention, the cost of it. I think if one estimate, they said it was $148 million is the total cost of the parade. But I also heard another estimate where they were talking about, I can't remember the dollar figure, between 18 to 40 million, that they're estimating that the actual city of Washington, D.C., the roads will be damaged. Some of the infrastructure will be damaged by some of the heavy equipment. You got to understand, this equipment is not really meant to be driven on civilian roads like this. It's meant to be driven on austere locations, rocks, concrete, dirt, the jungle, desert, wherever, but not on a paved road. These paved roads are built to standards per U.S. cars and those heavy four-wheel vehicles they're going to be on, or two-wheel vehicles they're going to be on roads, and 18-wheelers. You know what I'm saying? It's just not. They're not designed for tanks and all that other heavy hardware that's going to be rolling. Even some of the missile launchers are pretty heavy in the Army. But it's interesting because during the parade, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the camera, but the Army does a good job of reinforcing roads and pavements and things like that so they can get their equipment into really weird locations. And they proved this in Iraq. Iraq was a pretty modern city, and so they had roads and infrastructure. The tanks but obviously they didn't care about, preserving the roads there in Iraq. They were just trying to do what they had to do. But there were certain roads in Iraq that were damaged enough to where tanks couldn't go across them and bridges that couldn't support some of the equipment. And so you got the Army Corps engineers and those great group of men and women in uniform that reinforce roads and things like that. In DC, you'll see that. You'll see in the roads in DC, there's no doubt it's going to tear up the road some, but the Army is actually going to be they're putting them down now, these massive, huge metal plates on the ground so that it'll minimize the damage caused by some of the tanks like the M1 Abrams and things like that. Because you got to understand, when it's one thing to have that heavy weight going across the concrete like that, but just imagine that heavy weight on the concrete, and then when it's time for that thing to turn, and I'm telling you, it just twists that concrete up, just bundle it up, man. That's how heavy these things are. But that metal plate between them will obviously make the tank or heavy hardware just kind of glide in the position they want to get in. But it'll be interesting. This will be, I would say this is new territory, man, for a long time for the military folks to get prepared for something like this. Celebrating military, the things we do is nothing new. This is the Army's 250th anniversary, June 14, 1775. So salutes up to my brothers and sisters in arms in the Army. But this is nothing new. We celebrate our military all the time through things like military open houses, where they'll open up certain sections of the military base and let the folks come in and kind of look around and see what it feels like to be on a military base. We also have air shows, Air Force air shows, where and Air Force air shows, it's not just Air Force folks there, it's all the other services. The Army, they'll come. You have the Navy may show up, you know what I'm saying? It just depends, but they always put on a good show with the air shows the Air Force does. The Navy, I think they also do the similar type of open house type deals, and I think they open up a lot of their ships sometime when they're in port to the public, because keep in mind all this hardware and all these ships and all this stuff, this is what your taxpayer dollars is paying for. So it's important that you see exactly where your money is going when you're looking at this hardware. But understand, this hardware is only one aspect of it. It takes a really, really smart group of young men and women to operate this hardware. And they are some of the most highly trained folks in the world. And I know because I am one of them. And the training we have to go through is just, You couldn't imagine. You couldn't imagine. And the thing about the military, the training is not in just one thing. I'm probably certified in 30 different things and don't even know it. That's just how, how much knowledge and depth of experience you gain from the military. And they push on you because you're exposed to so many different things. Depending on the mission, depending on what your job is, they prepare you very well for it. And it's all well documented. And interesting enough, some programs in the military or some career fields in the military are so high level that you can actually end up getting a degree just by being in the career field and taking a couple classes, college classes, for like an associate degree in that field or something like that. But yeah, the military parade is going to be something it's going to be something to see. Unfortunately, during the military parade, I just found out they're planning. Last count was 18,000 protests across the U.S. 18,000, and President Trump has vowed to really be heavy-handed with a lot of protesters if they are out there. And I would just urge everybody to just if you're gonna be out there like that protest, man, do it peacefully. If anything, silent protest, goes a long way. Oftentimes the loud voice, oftentimes it's never heard, but they can hear silence because it's deafening. But the peace, man, I can't say it enough. I condone peace. I don't condone the tearing up and destruction that's been taking place. We've seen some of that in LA, and it's nothing new. When communities become inflamed, they come enraged and upset about something. Oftentimes they'll turn that rage inward within their own communities, and they'll tear up their own infrastructure. And unfortunately, you got to go back to that infrastructure. It's your community. So I pray that everybody, does the right thing on June 14th, this Saturday. It's going to be a monumental day. It's going to be an interesting day. It's going to be the world will be watching. The world will be watching because, again, this is something the U.S. hasn't done in a long time. And the last time we did it, keep in mind, we did it when the military was not the way it was now. The technology was not there. It didn't even have the look that it has now. We did it way back then, in the old days, but we did it. But now, I think in 2025, you're going to see what the military looks like today. And for those who may have questions about, some aspects of the military, some of the things you see, ChatGPT is a good resource. If y'all don't have ChatGPT, man, you can type that thing in, man, and you can actually take a picture of that hardware and upload it to ChatGPT, and it does a damn good job of trying to identify it. Real talk. But find you a veteran, man. Find a veteran in the army that particularly, because this is pretty much going to be likely Army hardware. I don't know. It's a military parade, so I'm getting mixed messages on what the actual focus is going to be on. This is the Army's 250th anniversary, but they're calling it a military parade. And typically with the U.S. president, with a military parade, he has all his services there. So this will be interesting. Even me, I'm not sure what's going to take place. And so it's going to be interesting. One thing I have to say is that there is a lot of controversy around the parade about whether the parade should be held or not. And I'm not going to delve into that controversy, but I am going to say this. I am going to ask everyone to think of the military members who are there making sure this parade goes off without a hitch. I ask everyone to keep those folks in mind when you think about the fact that they are just like you and I, and they have families. And by wearing that uniform, they're already separated from families quite a bit. And now they're separated from families again. Keep in mind, those in uniform, they work long hours, man. They do what it takes to get the job done. So I can guarantee you, all these folks I'm seeing on TV in uniform, they're working overtime, man. They're putting in hours and, having to have long time periods away from family and things like that. Because keep in mind, even though it's just this Saturday, they didn't just start preparing now. They have been preparing for this. So there have been military members already kind of assessing the roads and seeing, okay, which direction we can take this tank, which road will support this. Can we go this way? Will it fit down this? They've already been, doing all the initial work. They're pre-planning for this. And so just keep in mind, there have been military members who have put in long hours to put on such a grand display of American might. And so let's pray for those in uniform. Let's always pray for those in uniform, even outside of the parade, and enjoy the parade. Again, if you have questions about some of the hardware you see, use ChatGPT, Google, Google in, Army missiles, or Army missile launchers, and just kind of look at the pictures and see if you can identify which one is being displayed on the roads. And so have fun with it. Have fun with it. Enjoy. With that, this is Eric Brown, MOBO-Media. Hey, again, Army 250th birthday. Salutes to my brothers and sisters in arms. And with that, I'll let y'all go. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.